Good morning. All right, it's a beautiful morning outside. I did my exercise today already. Just the walking part, though. I got the second part to do later on. And so we're going to pull this all together now. So for those of you who've been here, I've given you a little bit of things at a time, and I'll do this whole thing all over again because it's repetition. It's repetition that actually causes you to become knowledgeable about something. And let me just kind of tell you that I know for a fact that having a tool without the knowledge behind that tool is not going to turn out very well. So sometimes I'll give people the tool of surgery. I'll do a gastric bypass or a sleeve gastrectomy, or I'll even do medicines where I give them some GLP-1s for a short period of time. When I give them those tools, if they don't have the knowledge, guess what? There's a good chance that they're going to misuse that tool and they're going to wind up back where they started from. No fault of your own, but that's the purpose of these webinars, is that the tools have to come with instructions. Now, if you got a simple tool like a hammer, you ain't really got to read the instructions on how to use a hammer or a nail, right? But our body is a complex organism, so having the instructions on what our body is doing in the background is cool. Now, some of you say, okay, fine, you're too technical, you're too science-based, and so that's kind of the point. I want to basically kind of give you some of the science, but I'm going to break it down to you. And that's going to be the difference, because the thing that you're going to need to know is that I'm going to give you the science. I'm going to give you the meta-analysis. I'm going to give you the science behind what things work, because you're not going to get that information anywhere else. Well, you can, but you're not going to get it from your doctors. They're not going to sit down and tell you about the double-blind, prospective, randomized studies. And so how are you going to know? How are you going to know if that personal trainer who tells you to eat 6 meals a day because it increases your metabolism from your GI tract and you burn more fat because your GI tract is actually causing you to... How do you know if that's right or not? How do you know if exercising in the morning versus exercising in the evening is better for you or not? Well, the thing that I'm going to do is actually pull the science together, and then you make the decision as to what you want to do. That last little thing that I just said, exercise is good any time that you could do it. And I want you to do it at least 3 or 4 times a week. All right, but optimization is the key here, because my favorite quote, and this is kind of how we're going on this. My favorite quote is that we're not just trying to live longer, we're trying to live healthier longer, all right? That's what I'm trying to do, because I don't want to live to be 90 and in a nursing home and not knowing who my relatives are or not knowing who my friends are that come to visit me. I want to live to be 90, 95, 100 years of age. If I can make it to 100 years of age, I want to be healthy at 100 years of age. You do too. You do too. So that's our goal. And so we're pulling all these things together. Metabolic health, and metabolic health encompasses a lot of things. And that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to pull it all together. And so today I have 8-minute videos. I'm going to show you 3 of them. And some of them are going to start easy. Some of them are going to start technical. And I'm going to stop them and I'm going to give some commentary. And so, because some of them go quite fast, but I'm going to pause and give you things to pause on, things to kind of say, let me let that soak in for a second. Because if I let it go all the way through, you'll kind of miss the point. And the overall key here is repetition. Every time I repeat something, even if I repeated something that I did last week, the videos that I'm giving you are basically videos that are produced on the meta-analysis, the double-blind prospective studies that I'm talking about. So you can pretty much rest assured that this stuff is data. And this is just a way for me to give you those data points, those prospective double-blind or randomized meta-analysis type of studies, to give you those data points in a format that you can possibly understand. And we're going to break that down even further. And again, the overall point is that we're going to give you the principle, the tools to carry with you so that at some point in time when I'm going to tell you at the very, very end of this a blueprint of what I want you to do. For those of you who are here to lose fat, I'm going to tell you a blueprint on how to lose that fat. I'm going to tell you things to eat, things to exercise, things to do. All right? For those of you who are just to improve your metabolic health, because there are people who are here who are not overweight or obese, but who have a history of heart disease, who have a history of congestive heart failure, dementia, brain fog, and things of that nature. They just want to know how to get metabolically healthy. And we have something for those people as well. So I'm going to give you that blueprint, but before I give you the blueprint, I'm going to basically kind of give you the truth. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quiz. And during this quiz, the videos will follow. Now, this quiz came from these videos. Now, we're going to go through the quiz. I'm not going to expect you to know the answers, but I'm going to expect you to look at some of the stuff that the videos will address. This is basically the theme of today's talk. And the theme of today's talk is basically, it's not just about living longer. It's about living healthier, longer. Okay? I love that quote because that's exactly what we want to do. We work all our lives. We work hard in order to enjoy our lives later on. We definitely don't want to we can't enjoy life later on if we're not healthy, okay? So basically, what are we going to be talking about, if I can get this thing, is number one, we're going to talk, and this will make sense to you as we go along. We're going to burn first. It's going to be about the exercise. Then fiber, number two, fiber first. And then pulse protein all day. Burn first, fiber first, pulse protein all day. Burn first. What does he mean by that? We're going to be talking about exercise. Fiber first. We're going to be talking about what you do when you do eat some food. What's important about that? And then pulse protein all day. Those are the three principles that if you go away with, if I can really, really concrete those things into your brain, then you'll quit the yo-yo dieting. You'll basically incorporate something that you can live with for the rest of your life based upon where we are in the science today. Now, maybe in 15, 20 years, the science may change. But for right now, we've got pretty good science, pretty good evidence that the science that we have is working. So I'm going to show that to you. All right. So let's go ahead. That's me sick. All right. I didn't have just bad arms and everything, but I had a big belly. I had visceral fat. I had congestive heart failure, prediabetes, hypertension, and atrial fibrillation. And now it was a few years back before I started this research because it was beginning to affect my health. And I was okay. I was young. I was in my 50s, late 50s, but I was young and I was not ready to go. But atrial fibrillation associated with hypertension associated with congestive heart failure is a setup for early death. All right? I wasn't going to make it very long. All right. And this is me from the side, 205 pounds. I wasn't going to make it long. 205 pounds, some people say that's nothing. 205 pounds right here is a whole lot of inflammation. This is me pursing my lips, trying to suck it in, not doing too good of a job. That just wouldn't go away just by me holding my breath and sucking it in. This is me today. This is me actually like a few weeks ago. I've actually gained a little bit more muscle and got a little bit more etching there. And I'm going to show you how. But the hypertension is going away. The prediabetes is going away. The atrial fibrillation is under control. Okay. But the congestive heart failure, the atrial fibrillation is called, is gone. My metabolic stuff is on the way. I got a ways to go, and I got to continue to do what I did. I just can't say, okay, fine, this is good. I'm good now, and I'm going to stop. Can't do that. I can't do that. It has to be a lifestyle. And that's what you guys have got to realize is that we're not just doing this as a temporary fix. We're doing this as a lifestyle. So we don't just live longer. We live longer, healthier. We live healthier, longer. Okay? And that's me pursing those lips again, sucking it in. Now, I can show you today. I won't, but I'll show you the picture next week. It's even better now here. But this is at 168 pounds. I've gained back up to 172, 173 pounds, but I am a little bit more cut. And the reason is I've gained muscle mass. And I'm going to show you the importance of muscle mass, not to become a bodybuilder, not to become a figure person, But because I know that the muscle is a pharmacy. The muscle is a pharmacy filled with biochemical compounds that feed to the rest of your body to keep your rest of your body healthy, your brain healthy, your lungs healthy, your heart healthy, your spleen healthy, your liver healthy. Those called myokines. We're going to explore what those myokines are. Because you heard me mention before, you said, what the hell is a myokine? Okay, I'm going to explain what a myokine is. It's that signal, it's that pharmacy, it's that chemical that your muscle has that tells you the rest of your body, we're getting healthy. It has nothing to do with how you look or how your body looks. I could care less. But I want you to come away with this particular concept, is that your muscle producing these myokines is a pharmacy for you to feed your rest of your body to keep it around longer, healthier. Okay, we'll explain what those are. One of the main things that I'm going to show you is BDNF. Everybody knows what that is, right? Probably not. But BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. BDNF is basically that stuff that kind of goes into your brain. It is stimulated by your muscle. It is one of the myokines. BDNF is a myokine. When you contract that muscle, you're releasing BDNF. It goes to your brain and makes your brain more plastic. So it decreases dementia. It actually destroys amyloid. What is amyloid? Amyloid is those little plaques you get that are Alzheimer's that people tend to get when they do find out, they say amyloid is what's been developed in the brain. BDNF controls that. There are other things that the muscles secrete that controls that. So if you're afraid of getting Alzheimer's because you've got a family history of Alzheimer's, listen up. Listen up to this primarily because getting that BDNF from that muscle is going to be just for you. All right, that's me. All right, so here's before, right here. Congestive heart failure, prediabetes, hypertension, atrial fibrillation. Here, all of that gone, with the exception of atrial fibrillation. I still have a little bit of bouts of that, but I guarantee you I'm going to get that controlled. Cellular ratio of AMP to ATP rises during a period of fasting. You're not going to know that but that's going to be one of the things you're going to listen out for. This is one of the things we're going to learn. What is AMP? What is ATP? What is it doing in our body? Why is it important for us to know? Why is it medium to know? So we won't spend much time on that, but let's just kind of look at it. Cellular ratio of AMP to ATP rises during a period of fasting. Does it? The liver increases the production of bile acids to enhance the absorption of fats. The energy system, AMPK, is activated. This is a little too technical. Let me go to the next question. All right, number 2 out of 10, according to the leucine trigger hypothesis. Now, you all should know what leucine is, especially if you've been here before. But leucine is that golden amino acid that we're getting in our whey protein shakes. All right, so I'm asking you to take whey protein isolate as your shake form. And then I'm also asking you to take in leucine-rich foods. But the key to the protein that we're taking in has to be this amino acid called leucine. So, somebody's singing. So according to the leucine trigger hypothesis, what is the approximate threshold of leucine required per meal to maximize muscle protein synthesis, which is what we're going to be talking about. All right? That's right. Research indicates that this specific range of leucine is necessary to flip the mTOR master switch and initiate robust protein synthesis. And I'm going to tell you what mTOR is. I'm going to tell you what AMPK is and mTOR, because they're two different switches, but you got to kind of begin to understand this stuff, and it is stuff. But AMPK and mTOR, one, you're building up muscle and getting those signals ready to go. The other one, you're oxidizing fat. You're burning fat, and you're cleaning out your system. Your cells secrete boo-boo, just like but your cells are going through a metabolism, and they have excrement. They have waste product they produce. Well, it just doesn't sit there in our body, and if it does, our body becomes toxic, inflamed. So we have to get that waste out. Us getting that waste out is called autophagy. We're going to go into that. Autophagy is mediated by AMPK. Muscle protein synthesis is mediated by mTOR. That's all you got to remember. AMPK is autophagy and fat burning. NPK is muscle, both of which we want to master. We want to master. How can I get the body to clean out my cellular debris and at the same time burn some fat, because most of us here are to burn fat. And then number two, how can I get those good signals from my muscle, those good chemicals from my muscle pharmacy to make me live longer, healthier? Okay, we're going to talk about that, all right? Number three, by what mechanism do viscous fibers, remember, such as those found in psyllium husk, metamucil, flatten postprandial glucose and insulin spikes? If you were here last week and you hadn't been trying Metamucil, you should have been trying Metamucil all day. I want you to see, I have my own brand of fiber, but I want you to see what Metamucil is going to do for your body. It's just psyllium husk, and it only costs $18 a month, and it's a lifesaver, especially if you're taking statin drugs and you got LDL cholesterol problems and you got glucose spikes and you got other insulin resistance issues. All right? Metamucil. This is a grade up from Metamucil, only if you cannot stand the taste of Metamucil, and I can't. But that's just me. If you're able to take Metamucil in at least 2 times a day before each meal, which is going to be 2 meals a day, then do it. But do it. Okay? Please do it. You just don't know how important that is, and nobody told you that, right? All right. So what mechanism is that? They do C. I said C. It says yes, that's correct. The formation of a syrupy gel acts as a biological speed bump and ensuring that carbohydrates, and so if you eat some oatmeal, some pancakes in the morning, and you take your fiber and you take your psyllium husk in first, that insulin, that glucose spike is going to be leveled, and therefore your insulin spike is going to be leveled. And it's important to keep your insulin spikes down, primarily because insulin spikes too often throughout the day results in insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the core of most of chronic diseases that we have. Number 4, how does the consumption of viscous fiber lead to a reduction in circulating LDL cholesterol levels? If you got problems with LDL cholesterol and you're taking a statin because that's all your doctor does is write your prescription, try this. Try the Metamucil, and then ask your doctor to check your levels, and you can stay on your statins during that time. And when he tells you that, yeah, your cholesterol will come down quite nicely, ask him to begin to wean you off the statins. Slowly wean you off the statins. Because there are certain statins that actually cause type 2 diabetes. Did you know that? They probably didn't tell you that. But I have a person in my office that actually her diabetes is getting worse because she's on the statins. But she's following the fiber protocol, but the statins is making her type 2 diabetes worse. It's a circle. How does the consumption of viscous fiber lead to the reduction in certain LDL cholesterol levels? The answer is D. That's right. Bile acids are made of cholesterol. We need bile acids to digest fat. When we take in bacon, when we take in steak, when we take in any sort of fatty food, we've got to have bile acids to digest that food. Those bile acids are made by the liver, and they're made by the liver from cholesterol. This viscous fiber, let me get this back up first. Those bile acids are used over and over again. It's like a dish rag. It's basically, you use it once, you don't throw it away. You use those bile acids over and over. It's an efficient part of the body. So the bile acids, 99% of them are in what's called the intrahepatic circulation, and you use those bile acids. Now, what this viscous fiber does is it's like a magnet. It's like a sponge for those bile acids that's in your intestinal tract. So you're taking those bile acids, and those bile acids are coming into, and you taking in the fiber, that psyllium husk, that Metamucil, and those bile acids get trapped. They get trapped into that gel-like syrupy stuff. And then where does that go? Goes out your boo-boo. Technical term. But it goes out your stool, okay? And basically, the body says, okay, I'm supposed to reuse that. What happened to it? My levels of bile acids are getting lower. So I need to make some more. Because you got to have some more to digest your avocado, digest your steak, digest your chicken, digest whatever you're taking in this fat. You got to have more bile acids. And so the body says, I'm going to make some more. So it makes some more, and it needs a byproduct to make it from. It needs the tool. Where bile acids are made of? Cholesterol. Where's it going to get the cholesterol? It's going to get the cholesterol out of your bloodstream. So in effect, it's doing some of the same things that those drugs are doing. Is the drugs are absorbing cholesterol out of your bloodstream. A cheaper way to do it is to let the fiber do it. You think? Yeah, that's great. Okay. So by preventing the recycling of bile acids, the body must deplete its cholesterol, its own cholesterol store to maintain digestion. It's sucking the cholesterol out of your bloodstream. And where does cholesterol plaque come from? It comes from cholesterol in your blood vessels. And you're stealing it out of your blood vessels. Your blood vessels are now wispy clean over a period of time. Okay. All right. Next. Which myokine, remember the chemical pharmacy of your muscles? Which myokine stimulated by exercise every time you contract your muscle is known for its ability to support neuronal health, cognitive function, very important, effectively creating a muscle-brain axis. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This brain-derived, it's a factor that's feeding the brain, clearing out the amyloid. All right? So basically, that's a myokine, a chemical released by the contraction of your muscle that feeds your brain, making your brain more plastic, growing neurons, making you smarter as you age, but only because you're using the muscle secreting the myokine. How does this differentiate with somebody who didn't have the gallbladder? Your liver still makes, the gallbladder is just one of those items that just hold the bile until you eat a fatty meal. And then your gallbladder then pushes out the bile when you're eating that fatty meal. You eat that fatty piece of chicken, eat that fatty piece of steak, eat that fatty piece of whatever. Your gallbladder says, oh, I see that. And it pushes it out. Well, now that your gallbladder gone, you can still eat steak. You can still eat fatty chicken. You can still eat those things, right? It's because your liver is constantly making those bile acids. And instead of it being stored in the gallbladder, it's now just a constant trickle of bile acids that are going into your intestinal tract. So you're not missing anything. You're just missing the luxury of storing it whenever you need it. Now there's just a constant trickle of bile acids in there. All right. So brain-derived neurotrophic factor. That's right. BDNF is a key myokine that crosses the blood-brain barrier to promote synaptic plasticity. What is synaptic plasticity? That means that those little neurons become even more healthful, more youthful. So as you age, which is from the time we're getting dementia and forgetting things, as you age, you're getting smarter. You're getting more intelligent. And you're not having to do crossword puzzles. No, I'm just kidding. Crossword puzzles are good. But BDNF, coming from muscle contraction, is more powerful than a crossword puzzle. I guarantee you that. In the context of healthy aging, which of the following is considered a stronger predictor of long-term survival than muscle mass alone? Sarcopenia research, sarcopenia means age-related loss of muscle mass. And we used to think that it was just because we're getting old, we lose muscle mass. It ain't. We're losing muscle mass as we age because we're not using the muscle mass as we age. Think about the bodybuilders, the Arnold Schwarzenegger. They could have stayed like that. They would have lost a little bit of muscle mass, but they had their career in their early 20s and 30s and 40s. They got their championship medals and all that kind of stuff, and they just stopped doing it. Where the opposite is supposed to occur. As you get older, you're supposed to do more of that stuff. Who knew, right? Well, look at every single one of them that were bodybuilders way back when. Only the ones that are currently doing as much or more of the training are the ones that are still around and good and fit. Arnold Schwarzenegger is still around, and he's not as fit as he used to be because he's not doing as much as he used to. But he's doing muscle training exercises. 7, the age-associated phenomenon of inflammation, and aging is characterized by a systemic increase in which pro-inflammatory myokine or cytokine? Interleukin-6, that's an inflammatory cytokine when it's secreted by fat, but it's a healthful cytokine when it's secreted by muscle. So it may not be interleukin-6. Fibroblast growth factor, I don't know. Interleukin-10, irisin. Irisin is that substance that turns yellow fat into brown fat. Brown fat is that fat that we want. It's on our back area. That's why we tell people to take very, very cold showers, because it stimulates that brown fat, which increases your metabolism. That's another lecture. Almost all these topics I give a whole lecture on. In the context of aging, as opposed to acute exercise, chronic low-grade elevation in IL-6 are hallmark of systemic inflammation. Okay? All right. See, we can salvage ourselves. What is the primary role of myokine, fibroblast growth factor? You might not know this. I may not know this. In supporting longevity. D is right. All right. By optimizing energy, FGF2, fibroblast growth factor 2, helps maintain tissue hemostasis. Okay. Now, so these are just things, this basically kind of cue you of some of the terminology, what you're going to hear. All right. So now that you kind of know some of the things, you're going to hear these things. They're going to explain them somewhat. I'm going to stop the video and I'll explain it to you again. But it's this repetition, because I've never known anybody to learn how to speak a foreign language by just hearing it one time or just practicing it on one day out of the week. You got to hear it over and over and over again. That's what we're doing. In the skeletal muscle of aged mice, a deficiency in AMPK, that's autophagy, right? Autophagy and fat burning. AMPK is the mediator for fat burning and autophagy. Autophagy is cleaning out your system, which has to happen. Imagine if you didn't have a bowel movement for a year. You wouldn't be around. So your body has to get rid of cellular debris out of your body. It has to. That's called autophagy. We got to actively do autophagy. When you're trying to tell you to eat 6 times a day, that's not autophagy, okay? Autophagy comes with fasting. It comes with 2 things. Number 1, the body stress from fasting and the body stress from exercise. So exercise resistance training, and basically fasting. And so you put those 2 together, because I'm going to address this later on, but I might as well tell you now. If you put those 2 together, fasting and exercise combined together really, really increases AMPK. Fasting and exercise really. So what does that mean? Fasting and exercise. Well, the first thing you do when you get up in the morning is exercise in a fasted state. I'm going to revisit this in a second. But that's one of the secrets of optimizing your health. You can exercise. If you exercise any time of the day, I'm happy. But your body is optimized when you exercise first thing in the morning, when you get up before you eat. My wife's been doing this for years. She didn't know why. She didn't know the science behind it. But she's been doing this for years. She goes to the gym early in the morning. She does her walk, and then she on the treadmill. And then she does her resistance training. And then she goes and eats about 4 or 5 egg whites, which is basically about 4 or 5 egg whites, about 3 grams of leucine. She didn't know what she was doing. But somebody told her to do it, and that happened to be right. Okay? So fasted exercise. So the fasting, it pushed all the cellular junk out of her body. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you're also oxidizing fat. All that's mediated by AMPK. So then when she took that leucine, it basically gave a super response. A super response, because then it turned on mTOR. And we'll go through that. All right. So anyway, in the skeletal muscle of aged mice, the deficiency in AMPK-mediated autophagy is linked to which pathological outcome. D, that's right. Fasting-induced hypoglycemia. AMPK is required to maintain blood glucose during fasting, and because it then burns the fat in order to maintain glucose. Burns the fat, and it does those 2 things, burns the fat and cleans out the cellular debris, and to preserve muscle integrity by clearing damaged proteins, misfolded proteins, that's the damaged proteins. Which specific loading paradigm is generally recommended for maximizing muscle hypertrophy in healthy adults? D is right. This range provides the optimum balance of mechanical tension and metabolic stress to trigger the mTOR pathway. All right. So I'm going to stop it just to make sure that you recognize certain things, okay? Here we go.
Welcome to the Explainer. You know, we're constantly hearing these two totally opposite pieces of advice, right? You've got to fast to live longer, but you also have to eat big to build muscle. So how on earth can you be in building mode and cleaning mode? Well, it turns out you can, and we're going to break down exactly how. All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get right to the heart of this biological tug of war. Then we'll meet the two main players, these master switches in your body. From there, I'll show you a couple of powerful tools to help you take control. And we'll wrap it all up with two super practical daily blueprints you can actually use. Let's do this. So, let's dive right into this fundamental issue that really confuses a lot of people. I mean, it's a genuine paradox, this metabolic tightrope that we're all trying to balance on. Yeah, so here's the core problem. We hear all the time, fast for longevity, let your cells clean themselves up. But in the very next breath, someone's telling you to eat a ton of protein to build and hang on to that precious muscle. They seem like complete opposites. So the big question is, can we really have the best of both worlds? Okay, so the secret is understanding that your body is basically either building or cleaning, but it's really, really hard to do both at the same time. The whole game is about learning how to flip between two master switches. You've got mTOR, that's the builder. It gets turned on by food, especially protein and resistance training, and its job is to make you grow. And then you have AMPK, the cleaner. It gets activated by the absence of food, fasting or exercise, and it tells your cells, hey, time to do some repairs. They're literally triggered by opposite signals, and learning to control them is everything. So let's zoom in on that first master switch, mTOR. This is our growth engine. This is the pathway that builds what is arguably our most important metabolic organ, our muscle. You know, when we talk about eating protein or lifting weights, what we're really trying to do is kickstart this one single process, muscle protein synthesis, or MPS for short. It's pretty simple, really. If your MPS is higher than your muscle breakdown, you build or maintain muscle. If it's the other way around, well, you lose it. It's all about that balance. So how do we actually fire up this MPS engine? Well, it turns out there's one specific amino acid that does most of the work, leucine. You can think of leucine as the literal ignition key for MTR. When you get enough of it in a meal, we're talking about 3 grams or so, it sends this incredibly potent signal that just flips that MGR switch to on, and bam, your body starts the whole process of building new muscle. But here's the catch, and this is absolutely crucial. You can't just slam protein shakes all day and expect to grow forever. After you trigger that muscle building response, your muscles essentially become full. They go into this refractory period for the next 3 to 5 hours where they just won't respond to any more protein signals. This muscle full effect is exactly why your meal timing is so important. All right, let's switch gears and look at the other side of the coin. What amazing stuff happens when we stop eating and that mTOR switch gets turned off for a while? This is a process called autophagy, and it literally means self-eating. You can think of it as your body's built-in quality control and recycling program. When you're fasting and your cells sense that energy is low, they flip on that AMPC switch. And that's the signal to start cleaning house, getting rid of old, junky proteins and damaged parts, and recycling them. It's absolutely vital for staying healthy long-term. And check this out. This quote really shows you how elegant this system is. It's not just that AMPK turns on the cleanup crew. It also actively shuts down the builder, mTOR. It's a 2-for-1 deal. This ensures that when it's time to clean, the building sites are closed, so the two systems aren't constantly fighting each other. It's a beautiful biological balance. Okay, so we get the theory, right? This metabolic dance between building with mTOR and cleaning with AMPK. So now, how do we actually control it? Let's talk about a couple of power-ups. 2 amazing tools that can help you master this tightrope walk and get the benefits from both sides. First up, myokines. Seriously, these things are incredible. When you exercise and your muscles contract, they release these little proteins. Think of them like little text messages that your muscles send out to the rest of your body, to your brain, your liver, your fat tissue, telling them to get healthier and work better. And what's just wild is how many different jobs these messengers have. I mean, just look at this chart. You've got BDNF, which people call miracle grow for the brain. You've got IL-15, which is this amazing builder and burner. It helps grow muscle and shrink fat at the same time. And how cool is apelin? It actually helps older muscles act young again. This just proves that lifting weights isn't just about looking good. It's a profound signal for your total body health. Our second power-up is a very specific kind of fiber. Now, the key here isn't just that it's soluble. The real magic is that it's viscous. And what that means is it has this crazy ability to soak up water in your gut and form a thick kind of syrupy gel. And that gel is where all the benefits come from. So this gel, it's a total game changer for your metabolism. It basically creates a speed bump inside your digestive system. As you can see, the food you eat, especially carbs, has to move much more slowly through this thick gel. And the result? That massive blood sugar spike you'd normally get after a meal gets squashed down into a low, gentle, rolling hill. That means less insulin is needed, which is just fantastic for your long-term metabolic health. But wait, there's more. This stuff is also brilliant at lowering your cholesterol. Here's how it works. Your liver uses LDL, the bad cholesterol, to make digestive bile. Now, normally, your body recycles that bile. But this sticky fiber gel traps the bile so it can't be recycled. It just gets, escorted out of your body. So your liver has to make more bile, and to do that, it has to pull more LDL cholesterol out of your bloodstream. Your LDL levels go down. I mean, how smart is that? Okay, so we have the theory, we have the power-ups. Now, let's get practical. How do we actually put all this together into a daily schedule that balances this building and cleaning? Let's walk through 2 blueprints for 2 different goals. First, a really important reminder, there is no one-size-fits-all solution here. Please think of these as templates, as starting points. You have to listen to your own body and adapt these strategies to fit your goals in your life. Okay, blueprint 1. This one is for somebody whose main goal is fat loss. We're using a 16.
So again, I'm combining with the studies that are out there that talk about autophagy and then which give you fat burning and clean out the cells. And there are people here on this webinar and people that come to me always say, well, Doc, I don't have that much fat to burn. And so do I really need to do this autophagy thing? So the answer is what we just said here is that no 2 people are alike. So when you go into the YouTube and they start telling you that if you're not doing this, then you're just not doing it right. They're trying to couch everybody into one particular way that they did it, and that's just not the cool way. So I broke it down from the studies that show a 16-8 time restricted eating. What 16-8 means is you get 8 hours to feed yourself, 8 hours to feed yourself, and basically 16 hours of fasting. Now the 16-8 time restricted eating protocol, which is a fasting type of protocol, is for fat loss. It's going to next give you one that's going to say 14 and 10. And you add these 2 numbers up, they equal to 24 hours in a day. So 14 and 10, 14 hours of fasting, and then 10 hours of eating are for those individuals who don't necessarily need to lose a whole lot of fat, but who want to be healthier. They got problems with high blood pressure. They have other things they have metabolic syndrome, but that metabolic syndrome comes out in the way of prediabetes, hypertension, dementia, brain fog, other things that indicate you have insulin resistance. Obesity and excess fat is only one symptom of insulin resistance. So I'm going to give you 2 examples here. There are several, but 2 examples that probably reach 99% of the people that I see, the people that come talk to me. The 16-8 time restricted eating, TRE, for fat loss, meaning that you get from 12 o'clock, you're not going to start eating until 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and your last meal is going to be 8. And I'm going to show you how to eat. Now, these numbers here are not exact numbers. What I like to use for the 16 and 8 is I like to use 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. So I remember about 12, 2, 6, and 8. And for both strategies, the 16 and 8 and the 14 and 10, the last 2 times that you're going to eat are 6 and 8. So 68 is how I remember that. Think it in you. So 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. Okay, 6 and 8. And then on the other one, basically, and I'll get to that. I'll start the slide, so I won't overwhelm you right now. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of explain this 16 and 8 time restricted eating for those folks who are primarily interested in losing weight. No matter if you had surgery, no matter if you're getting ready to have surgery, no matter what, we want you to adapt this particular protocol if your primary goal is fat loss. If your primary goal is actually not fat loss and it's probably, hey, keep you from having a heart attack or a stroke or diabetes, then we're going to talk about that in a second, okay? All right, and then go back.
8 time restricted eating window. That 16-hour fast really lets you crank up that AMPK activity for maximum fat burning and cell cleanup. Then, inside your 8-hour eating window, you strategically pulse your protein. You break the fast at noon with a fast-acting whey shake to jolt mTOR awake. Then you have a couple of whole food meals to keep protecting muscle and maybe a slow digesting protein before bed. Now, for Blueprint 2, maybe your goal is more focused on long-term health and just maintaining or slowly building muscle. For that, a 14-10 split can be perfect. The 14-hour fast is still plenty of time to get those AMPK benefits.
So this is what the literature says, but I wanted to give you something that made it easier. So I say 10, 2, 6, and 8. Remember I said 6 and 8 is what those are the times you're going to pulse your protein. Okay, 10, 2, 6, and 8. Those are the times. And you can combine it with whey shakes, cottage cheese in the evening, and 2 meals of leucine-rich foods. And I'm going to pull all this together for you because I know this is getting a little confusing. I'm going to pull all this together for you in just a second, okay?
But the real advantage is the longer 10-hour eating window. It gives you the space to fit in 4 distinct protein meals, which lets you fully respect that muscle-full effect we talked about and gives you more chances to trigger mTOR throughout the day. So let's just wrap this all up. The big takeaway is that this isn't about choosing fasting or feasting. It's about using them both intelligently. You use time-restricted eating as your tool to turn on AMPK, the cleaner. You use strategic protein pulsing to turn on mTOR, the builder. Then you layer on your power-ups like resistance training and viscous fiber to get the absolute best of both worlds every single day. Look, at the end of the day, your body is always listening. It's listening to the signals you send it with what you eat, when you eat, and how you move. By understanding these mechanisms, you're no longer guessing. You're in the driver's seat. So the only question left is, what signals are you going to choose to send tomorrow?
That's one thing that kind of explains it generally. I want to give you one more video. Just bear with me. It's not long. I'm going to interrupt it again. But now I'm beginning to pull all this together to give you the scenario that I want to drive home with you, especially the fasting that you're fasting, and then you wake up in the morning, and it means that your cyclic AMPK is on. So you're creating autophagy. You're burning out all the systems. You're making your brain healthier because some of those things that's causing brain fog, i.e., those amyloid plaques that are associated with dementia, Alzheimer's disease, those amyloid plaques, those are just the accumulation of you not fasting enough. All right, so you got to get things like that out of your brain. The body is creating damaging folded proteins as well, like the amyloid in your brain. You can get those things out and improve that longevity. So you're fasting, and that's AMPK mediated. It's burning fat and it's getting rid of the junk out of your body. Then, so that means that you're waking up in the morning, and I woke up in the morning, and I'm on the 14-hour fast. So I'm going to, and I alternate between the 14 fast or the 10-hour time restricted eating. I'm trying not to say both things so you don't get confused. But there's a 14 and a 16-hour fast. The 14-hour fast, I'm going to start eating at 10 o'clock. The 16-hour fast, I'm going to start eating at noon. All right? All right. So I'm fasting. I walked this morning. But after I get off this webinar, I'm going to do some resistance training. That resistance training gives me a lot of stress in my body. That stress turns on AMPK even more. So the stress of not eating burns the fat. The stress of basically doing exercise in a fasted state really turns on AMPK, getting your body ready for that first protein pulse that really gives you a strong signal to your muscles. Not to build muscle, it does build muscle, but not to build, but to release those myokines, that brain-derived neurotropic factor that keeps my brain sharp and plastic and moving, and it keeps the rest of my body, my liver good, my spleen good, my pancreas good, because all these myokines that go out, even the irisin that turns my brown fat, my yellow fat into brown fat. Okay, so I'm getting a little deep here, so I'm going to show you this one other video, and it's a different way to look at the same thing. Because like I said, learning a language, you just don't hear it once. So we're going to repeat these things in different formats so you can kind of get an idea as to what I'm talking about, okay? And then in the last few minutes of after this one, I'm going to pull it all together with a program for you. So we just talked about whatever you're interested in. And what you're interested in is losing fat. Then you're going to go for that 16 and 8, right? 16 and 8 equals 24. You're going to go 16 hours of fasting. And means that you're not going to eat till 12 o'clock today. And then before that 12 o'clock, at 11 o'clock, you're going to do your walking for 30 minutes. And you're going to do your resistance training, preparing your body for what you get that first dose of whey protein shake. You can eat bacon and eggs too, but they don't contain much leucine. So if you take your whey protein shake, which is, I get mine ready right here. The whey protein shake is going to be my shake, along with an egg, 2 eggs, and some bacon, which contains very little leucine. But I'm going to get this first leucine pulse. And after that particular AMPK, it turns off AMPK and it starts building up the muscle, and you get all the release of the myokines. I hope this is making sense, because this is extremely, extremely important, okay? So the second video, let's do this one, okay? This should be a young lady talking.
All right, let's jump right into one of the biggest puzzles in health today. We all want to build and hang on to our vital muscle mass, right? But at the same time, we need our bodies to do this essential deep cleaning to stay healthy for the long haul. So how in the world do you pull both of those off? Well, what if I told you the answer isn't about choosing one over the other? What if the real secret is mastering the science of switching between both of these states every single day? That's exactly what we're going to break down right now. You have to picture it like this. Right now, inside your body, there's a constant metabolic tug of war going on. It's this epic battle between two teams that are opposites, but are both absolutely essential. And understanding this conflict is the key to taking control. So on one side of the rope, you've got the cleanup crew. Their captain is a pathway called AMPK. This crew gets called into action when you're fasting or exercising. Their job? Break down old junk and save energy. Pulling on the other side is the construction crew, led by a guy named mTOR. This team gets activated when you eat, especially protein. Their whole job is to build new stuff, like muscle. And here's the kicker. They can't both be working at the same time. It's one or the other. When one team is on the field, the other is on the sidelines. So let's get to know these two team captains a little better. You can think of AMPK and mTOR as the master switches for your entire metabolism. You flip one on, the other one automatically flips off. First up is AMPK. This is your body's main energy sensor. So when your cells are running low on fuel, like when you're fasting or in a tough workout, AMPK gets switched on. It basically sounds the alarm to start conserving energy, kicking off what scientists call catabolic or breakdown processes. It's like a deep spring cleaning for your cells. And on the flip side, you've got mTOR. This is the master growth regulator. When nutrients, especially amino acids from the protein you eat, start flowing into your system, mTOR gets the signal to start building. It fires up all the anabolic or building processes. And its most famous job, of course, is building new muscle. This is your construction crew showing up with hard hats and tool belts ready to work. And this is where it gets really cool. This cleanup process has a name, autophagy. And here's how it works. Step 1, the stress from fasting flips that AMPK switch on. Step 2, just like we said, AMPK actively shuts down the MTR switch, bringing all construction to a grinding halt. And finally, with MTR out of the picture, the cell can finally tag all its broken, junky parts and recycle them. This is your body's ultimate quality control system in action. Okay, so if AMPK and mTOR are the master switches, how do we get our hands on the controls? Well, it turns out we have 3 really powerful levers we can pull: protein, fiber, and exercise. Let's look at how to use each one. So, lever number 1, protein, has kind of a secret code. To reliably flip that mTOR switch and get the construction crew on the job, your meal has to send a very specific signal. And that signal, that magic number, is about 3 grams of a single amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the main trigger. If you don't hit that 3-gram threshold, the construction crew might not even bother clocking in. For most people, this means getting about 30 to 40 grams of a high-quality protein in a single meal. But there's a catch. Once you hit that leucine target and kick off muscle protein synthesis, or MPS, the effect doesn't last forever. In fact, it's pretty short-lived. As you can see here, MPS spikes, it peaks around 90 minutes, and then it's all the way back to baseline within 3 hours. After that, your muscles go into what's called a refractory period. They just won't respond to more protein for a little while. This muscle full effect is why trying to eat 100 grams of protein in one go is kind of wasteful for muscle building. You've got to pulse it throughout the day to get multiple building signals. All right, let's talk about our second lever. Now, whenever we activate the mTOR construction crew by eating, we get a side effect we can't avoid: a spike in our blood sugar and insulin. So, how do we get the building benefits without the downside of that huge surge? Well, that's where something called viscous fiber comes in to act like a metabolic speed bump. And this chart tells the whole story. Viscous fibers, things like psyllium husk or glucomannan, they soak up water in your stomach and form this thick gel. And that gel literally slows down how fast you digest your food. Look at the difference. Without it, you get that huge, sharp spike in blood glucose. But with the fiber, that spike gets flattened out into this nice, gentle, rolling hill. This is huge for preventing insulin surges, and it can even help lower LDL cholesterol. And that brings us to our final lever. And honestly, this one's the real game changer: resistance training. Lifting weights doesn't just trigger muscle growth on its own. It actually makes your muscles way more sensitive to the protein you eat. That 3-gram leucine trigger, it becomes even more powerful after a workout. But exercise has another secret weapon. It makes your muscles release these powerful little messenger molecules called myokines. And this whole idea of myokines is taking us into one of the most exciting new frontiers in all of science. You know, we used to think muscles were just for moving things around. Now we know your muscle is actually a sophisticated gland, an endocrine organ that's constantly talking to the rest of your body using this secret chemical language. So how many of these secret messages are we talking about? A few dozen? 100? Not even close. Scientists have already identified over 650 different myokines, and they're finding more all the time. Think about that. Every single time you contract your muscles, you're sending out this complex cocktail of signals that talks to your brain, your fat cells, your bones, everything. Let's just look at a few of these because the power here is just wow. You've got one called irisin, which helps turn your regular white fat into the more metabolically active, calorie-burning brown fat. Amazing, right? Then there's BDNF, which stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. People call it miracle grow for the brain because it literally helps you grow new brain cells. And then you have something like myostatin, which acts like the brakes on muscle growth. Exercise helps lower it, which is like taking your foot off the brake. The takeaway here is incredible. Your muscle is a pharmacy, and every workout is you writing a powerful body-wide prescription for better health. All right, enough of the deep science. We get the tug of war, we know the switches, and we know the levers we can pull. So let's get practical. Let's walk through 2 different blueprints for your day that put all of this into action. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all here, but these are 2 fantastic starting points. First up, the 16-8 protocol. This one is really optimized for fat loss. You fast for 16 hours straight, which gives your body a really long window to fire up AMP, get that autophagy cleanup going, and burn fat for fuel. Then, in your 8-hour eating window, you strategically pack in 4 protein pulses. You break the fast at noon with a fast-digesting whey protein to immediately stop muscle breakdown. Then you have 2 real food meals, and you finish at 8 p.m. with a slow-digesting protein like casein to protect your muscles while you start your next fast.
Let me just go back to just for a second because, again, I took these times, and who's going to eat at exactly 240? So basically, the 16-8 fat loss protocol, that means that you got an 8-hour feeding window, means that you start at 12 o'clock. You've done your exercise at 11 o'clock, and your 11 o'clock exercise is going to be, and you can do it early if you want to, but basically after you do your exercise early, your 30-minute walk, and then your 30-minute resistance training, well, no matter what, then you're priming your muscles up for that first whey protein shake. But that autophagy that you're doing 16 hours, and that's why you're waiting till 12 o'clock, because your last meal was at 8 o'clock, but 8 o'clock the night before. So you're waiting 16 hours to basically break your fast, okay? And you could have like eggs and bacon. You could even have some oatmeal. I don't want to get into the habit of having, pancakes and things of that nature, but it's not off the list, primarily if you're taking in that Metamucil first, because that's going to lower your glucose spike, which lowers your insulin spike. So we're not taking anything off the list other than the real refined carbohydrates, but having a little bit of cereal in the morning, or oatmeal cereal, some rice in the morning is not going to break the bank. But again, this is the 68. This is for people who are mostly interested in the fat loss. And somebody asking the comments, is this going to be on something that they can access? Yes, it is. But we're going to start at 12 and we're going to end at 8. 12 to 8 is that 8 hours of feeding window. But you have a little bit shorter time. So I call this 12 o'clock. Then I'm not going to eat again until 3 o'clock. And then 6 o'clock. I'm not going to eat at 8 o'clock, but I'm going to take some cottage cheese. So all we're talking about is taking in leucine and each of these pulses, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 8 o'clock. So my last food is going to be at 6 o'clock. But at 8 o'clock, I'm either going to have me a casein shake, which contains all the fat, which makes it break down slower. It even makes the gel in the stomach, like we're talking about the fiber. It makes the gel in the stomach, so it feeds amino acids through the body throughout the night. Because at night, you're going to sleep 8 to 10 hours, and you're missing windows of opportunities. All right? So you're going to take that casein shake. And so this right here is just going to be my dessert. I'm going to take some cottage cheese. I'll show you the cottage cheese that I'm going to take in a minute. But it's just a regular old cottage cheese that I get from Publix, I guess. And so basically I'll put some raspberries, strawberries, or blueberries, or blackberries in it, and I'll eat this at 8 o'clock. That's my 8 o'clock meal. That cottage cheese, or in the form of, if I want to have a shake, I don't have any cottage cheese, I use casein protein shake. All right? That's going to give me that slow release of amino acids while I sleep. So it's not going to be a big meal, but it's going to give me 3 grams of leucine. Every pulse we're taking during the day with food, you're trying to hit that 3 grams of leucine. Why? Because having a meal without taking in leucine, you're missing an opportunity. So if you have your first meal in the morning of pancakes and, I don't know, pancakes and some Cheerios, that has no leucine in it. You missed that opportunity. So if you're going to eat something, you got to eat something with the leucine in it. That's why I break my fast with the leucine shake, because it's easy to take in. And if I want to have a couple of eggs and some bacon and some avocado sandwich, which has very little leucine in it, that's okay, because I hadn't reached that muscle full effect. All right? So let me continue. I just wanted to show you that 240. No, don't set your alarm for 240 and 520. I say 12, 3, and remember the 2 ones that I end with the 6 and 8. The 6 and 8, eating at 6 o'clock is a regular meal. I'll have a steak, which has around about 3.5 grams of leucine. I'll have a chicken breast or a chicken thigh, which has about 3.5 grams of leucine protein, or a pork chop. And then I'll give you some alternatives for people who are vegans as well. So that's the 16-8 protocol. The 14-10 protocol is a little bit more liberal. So you don't have to squeeze as many. You got 4 chances to take in that protein pulse. Always remember 4. You got to do 4. Every time but at the what you'll see next is basically starting instead of 12 o'clock, you're going to start at 10 o'clock. And then the next one is going to be 10 o'clock and then 2 o'clock. And then the last 2 are going to be again 6 and 8. 6 is when I use my whole food meal. And you can mix and match these. I'm going to give you some protocols, and I'm going to make it a special app to help you to get the variety of the foods you eat and all that. But anyway, that's to come.
PM with a slow digesting protein like casein to protect your muscles while you start your next fast. Okay, now for the second blueprint, the 14-10 protocol. This one is geared more toward metabolic health and maximizing muscle growth. The 14-hour fast is still plenty of time to get some great autophagy benefits, but the key is the slightly longer 10-hour eating window. This gives you the perfect amount of time to space out your 4 protein pulses, hitting one about...
Your 4 protein pulses. And again, don't set your watch for 120. Set it for 10. You're going to take your first one, 2, 6, and 8. This is just their thing from the studies. This is just one study. Okay, so I mean, these slides are coming from actual studies. But this is the 14-10. For those folks who really are here and say, Doc, listen, I ain't got that much fat to lose. I'm not that problem, but I do have a family history of diabetes, stroke, heart attack. And I'm worried about my metabolic health. How can I reduce my insulin resistance? I don't really need to lose a lot of fat. Using the 14-10 metabolic protocol is where you need to be. And for those individuals who've had weight loss surgery and they've gone and done the fat loss, they've basically done the 16-8 protocol, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of feeding, and they've gotten their fat gone. Then you kind of want to slowly wean to the 14 and 10, which is just maintaining your metabolic health after you've lost the fat. Because after you've had the surgery, you're going to lose the fat, okay? But to keep it off, again, that surgery is only a tool. To keep it off, you've got to still do this thing. And before that 10 a.m., I don't have time to show you the other video, but before that 10 a.m., you're going to do your exercise. You're going to have your AMPK on, which is cleaning out your system. It has to be done. Cleaning out your system has to be done. And the stress of exercise and the stress of not eating turns that AMPK on. That AMPK then does 2 vital things. Number 1, cleans out your system, burns the fat. All right? So let me see if I can start it here. We're going to end up in just a second.
Every 3 hours. This perfectly respects that muscle full refractory period we talked about, letting you maximize your muscle building opportunities all day long. So let's put them side by side. It's all about picking the right tool for the job. The 16-8 protocol with its longer fast is a more aggressive strategy for shedding body fat and really improving your insulin sensitivity. The 14-10 protocol, on the other hand, with its perfectly timed protein hits, is probably the superior strategy for building new muscle and promoting that long-term metabolic health. At the end of the day, what all this knowledge does is it empowers you. You can stop being a passive passenger in your own health and become the architect of your metabolism. You now understand the fundamental rules of the game being played inside your own body. And if you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Optimal health isn't about being stuck in a building phase forever or a cleaning phase forever. It's found in the rhythm, in the smart strategic cycling between the two. You need the stress of the fast and you need the signal of the feast. So there you have it. You've got the science, you've got the tools, and you've got the blueprints. The only question left is, how are you going to architect your day?
The reason I use this is NutriCause. I don't get anything out of promoting this stuff, but I look at the label and I make sure it doesn't have any soybean oil or things of that nature. And so this has been one of the more pure ones that I've been able to find. Contains 30 grams, which equates to around about 2.5 grams of leucine. I need a little higher dose, so I'll take a scoop and a half to give me 40 grams. And so I use that. And again, the cottage cheese I use. I've tried to ease you into this process, because if I gave this all to you at once, it'd be a complicated thing. You say, whoa, Doc, this is way over my head. But what I'm doing, and what I'll continue to do even next week, is to basically build on what we've already learned. So it's important for you to come back, and it's important for you to bring your friends back too. Because again, what you're going to get by going to your doctor, meaning that, okay, fine, even if you go in there prophylactically, you're going to say, okay, you look good, your weight's good, everything's fine. But are they really, really helping you as far as living longer? And if they find something wrong, what are the first things they do? They give you a prescription. We want to avoid all that, all right? We want to do it the right way. And the right way, as far as I'm concerned, until I find a better technique, is to slowly feed you information in the form of what's out there. What are the people the studies that have actually showed that does help us improve our aging, slows the aging process down, increases our longevity. But nobody's really communicating that to you. I'm communicating that to you. But I'm giving it to you in a piece by piece meal fashion so that you can digest it. And then we pull it all together in these little blueprints telling you what to do. The only thing that the last video, and I don't have time to show it, I'll show it next week, but the last video pulls it all together. Okay, so you take your whey protein first, but you take it after you do your fasted exercise. Because doing your fasted exercise, you're increasing that cyclic AMP. That cyclic AMP, just remember that. Two things. Cyclic AMP does two things. It cleans out your system. It cleans out your system and it burns fat. Good goal, right? Then after you do that, with the stress of the exercise, the stress of the walking and the exercise, an hour before, 2 hours before, 3 hours, doesn't matter. The first thing you want to do is to give it that signal, that first 3 grams of leucine. That's the shake. And I don't care if that's the only shake that you take. That the shake that you take, the first one that breaks your fast, is the most important one. And that one is that protein shake. You could take it in the form of food, but if you're on it gets more and more complicated if I try to explain it now, and I can't. So, but just trust me on the fact that you're going to take that protein shake in the beginning, that whey protein isolate shake in the beginning, and you're going to and you can take again an egg and some bacon with that. The shake is going to make you feel a little full, but I'll have that as my drink, and then I'll have the egg, the 2 eggs, and the bacon, and maybe an avocado, which has very little leucine in it, but I'll have that together. So I'm breaking my fast with real food and a shake. Okay? And then I get to go for the next couple of hours, and then what we'll talk about next week is kind of pulling it even more together. Because remember last week the first thing we did on the webinar was to do our air squats. Well, now I'm going to show you how to pull that together. Because every time that you have those 4 pulses, you can get those air squats in. So you remember, okay, fine, I'm going to set my clock for those 4 pulses. The 10, the 2, 6, and 8, the 12, and the 3, the 6, and 8. And every time I do one of those pulses, I'll do 20 air squats. So I'm killing 2 birds with one stone. And so, yes, this will come up. I'll send you guys what I'm getting ready to do before I eat the meal. I got another 40 minutes or so before I do my resistance training exercise, then whatever. Then I'm going to take this. So if you could take the psyllium husk, do it. It's cheaper. This is another product that if you can't take the psyllium husk, if it gets boring, which it did to me, but you got to take it twice a day. This is the fiber. And this is the viscous fiber. Because the other type of fiber, that broom type of fiber, the vegetables, the spinach, the kale, the cauliflower, the asparagus, the broccoli, all those fibers are the broom fibers. Those are the insoluble fibers. They help sweep your colon. But they're not giving you any metabolic effect. You got to take glucomannan, psyllium husk, pectin fibers, oat bran fibers. You got to take those things. There are 5 different types of fiber in this. That's what I take. But I only take it primarily because of the taste and the convenience of it. So I'm going to put it in my little glass of water here because I want to eat, I guess, in a little bit. But let's see what I got. And I got this little handy dandy. So some of these things we sell at the office. So here it is. I just put this little handy dandy stir thing in here. I take it just like a shot. It's cold water. Maybe 2 shots. But it has a good taste to it. And so now that's going to form a viscous fiber, a viscous glob in my stomach. So anything that I eat, when I eat my oatmeal or wherever I eat at the time of breakfast, along with the protein shake, it'll absorb those things. And my cholesterol is perfect. At one point in time, it was creeping up, but it didn't get too bad. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. Come back next week, and if you could do me a favor, have other people that you're concerned about, some people that could benefit from this information. It's free. And it's information that you're not going to get every time you go to the doctor. The doctor's going to tell you, you're doing good, whatever you're doing. They're not going to give you that information. I want you to have the tools of this information so you can grow in a health-like fashion. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Bring a couple of people along with you, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.